Oh, let's try that again. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, there we go. Make me feel good. I like that. Okay. As Dr. Harvey had mentioned, my name is Dr. Shalom McKeely. So, welcome. Today I'm going to teach you about leadership. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, okay, I'm a mentor. Why am I here learning about leadership? Well, actually, if you really think about it, it's going to be very important for you to learn about leadership, considering your role and looking at the dynamic structure of the program. So if you really think about it, we have two different roles. One role is a manager, and then you have one as a leader. The mentor's role is going to play a dual role, meaning that the mentors are actually going to be managing what the counselors are going to advise for you, for the students. So in a sense, counselors are going to be the leaders as far as what the academic pursuits are. So you're going to manage that. But your interaction is going to be a little bit different because you're going to see students every day, see their day-to-day life experiences. So with this portion, you will be the leaders. You will be the leaders with their day-to-day activities. So before we start talking about leadership, I want to ask everyone, and just to let you know that my training, teaching style, if you have any questions, please feel free to interject. I like to have dialogue, and we'll actually have a little bit of dialogue as we continue with this presentation. So with the dialogue, we'll have to ask, how much does each person know about leadership before we can even have this conversation? How much do we know about it? Or what is a leader? And anyone can answer this. Yes?
A guide.
Okay, good. A leader is a guide. Okay. Any others?
Someone that motivates.
Someone that motivates. Yes. Very good.
Role model.
Role model. Okay.
It's someone that doesn't try to have like a dictatorship approach. It's somebody that teaches other people to become leaders as well.
Okay. That's good. Maybe a couple more.
Sets an example.
Sets an example. Very true. Last one. Yes.
Leads.
Excuse me?
Leads. Leads.
Leads. Oh, they lead. A leader leads. Yes, and you would hope so. Yes. So actually, if you look at the definition here that I found, I know it's broken up. We can still look at this definition and still gain an idea of what leadership is. So leader is a process, an ability to motivate a group, organizing a group of individuals to achieve a common goal and with an intentional influence. And I like this word here if we look at process. Leadership is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and we'll get into it more about what leadership is later. So here are some guidelines for leadership. So leadership is not a position. And as I begin to talk about leadership, mind you, I'm not talking about anyone that you may know, okay? I'm just showing you this is exactly what the guidelines of leadership are, okay? So with leadership and position, I'm pretty sure we know some people who are in leadership positions. Just because a person is in a leadership position does not make them a leader. Okay? You begin to understand this as we begin to tie this in to some of the guidelines. They're very intuitive of each follower. So when we're looking at leaders, they have to be very charismatic. They're very charming in a sense because they have to win over the individuals. Leaders are also intuitive of their followers because they have to know, because we're guiding them, we're trying to make them, or not really make them, we're trying to influence them to complete a task. So with completing tasks, we have to understand each and every person in the group. So one person you may be able to talk to very sternly. You need to go and get up and do as you're told. Another person you might have to go, oh, it's okay, just look, get your job done and it's okay. The approach is going to be different each time. Each person is different. So with understanding a group, a leader has to be very cognizant and very mindful of each individual within the group in order to lead. Leaders are also change agents. This is huge, especially for this EYE program. It's a brand new program, And believe it or not, it is going to be some type of change. And with change, leaders have to understand with change that there might be some resistance. I'm not saying people in the EYE program will have resistance, but we have to acknowledge it. You never know. So change is definitely something that it's inevitable and it's always going. So if we have something that's new that's being implemented, then we have to account for change. And as leaders, we're going to be at the forefront, the cause, the catalyst, in a sense, of this change. I like to bring this up, a cabinet of enemies. So if you don't know what a cabinet of enemies is, we look at Abraham Lincoln. He actually, I believe this is actually a text. And so this is more of a historical perspective. But also if you look at present day, Obama would also fit this as well. So what a cabinet of enemies is, Abraham Lincoln literally, when he was elected, the people that he had on his electoral team were people that did not like him, who had completely opposite views of him. Some of them hated him. It's the same thing that Obama has today. So you would think, well, why would you do that? Why would I have people working with me on my team that don't agree with me and possibly don't like me? Well, because that's how a leader thinks. A leader looks at their perspective. It's all about perspective, looking at things from not just one side, looking at it from the big picture. And the big picture, unfortunately, we have to look at it from an opposite view. Okay, so before leaders will make their decisions, they have to look at things from multiple perspectives. Because if not, then you have a huge bias with the leader's opinion and leadership. I like this analogy. It's called the mirror and window analogy. So what the mirror and window analogy is if a group fails, a leader will pick up a mirror and look at themselves and say, I failed. If the group succeeds, the leader will look outside of the window and say, we did it. It's a completely different perspective. I'll get into more of this later. And I like this quote here. So you can see for an example of how old leadership is. Okay, this is an old Chinese proverb saying the leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. So leaders have to be very empowering. As you said before, they motivate people. Okay? I'm going to continue with some guidelines of leadership. So we're looking at, there's no secrecy. Leaders are very transparent. They're very clear. They're very concise in what it is that they're saying and what they are doing. And what they mean by no secrecy, you've seen leaders in theory, leaders will go in little small groups and they'll meet with their friends. They'll okay, the whispers, and then they'll implement a plan without informing the group. So when the group shows up and they're like, whoa, what is this? What's going on? Who created this new rule? Where did this come from? I didn't hear anything about this. So what that does, that causes a lot of secrecy. Okay, you don't want secrecy because what happens is later on, the followers will begin to not trust you. Operations don't work well. We're not getting everyone's perspective or opinion. So with not having everyone's opinion, that's limiting. It's limited to what the leader is doing. Also, with being transparent, that's another thing that I do. I'm a professor here. I teach Health 101. And how I display my leadership by being transparent is with grades. I always tell all my students every time, go ahead, look at the grade. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's open 24/7. And I'm very clear with that. Whatever they need, they want to email, they want to call me, whatever the case, 24/7. If you want to know what your grade is and you're concerned, contact me. I have nothing to hide. And I know some of you with that experience don't have that same experience with some instructors. I'm not going to say all, but don't have that same experience. Okay? Have a point and purpose. Leaders are huge with having a point and purpose. What's the goal? What's the direction? If people can't imagine or see the foresight of where this is going, then they're not going to follow. So leaders always have a point and purpose. Leaders will often feel alone. And it's because of that. Leaders are so futuristic thinkers that people can't connect with them emotionally, or people will laugh at them. I like to use the example of the television. There's TVs everywhere now. It's on your phones. It's even when you pump gas, you're like, yeah, I'm watching TV. You know? And they're everywhere. And it was very interesting because if you look at it, I can't remember, I'm horrible with dates, but bear with me. Let's just say the first TV came out in the 1940s. Like I said, I don't know, don't quote me on it. Let's just say. But what happened was, this individual that had the idea and the perception of creating a TV, I want to make a box that shows images. Yeah, people were like, you're crazy. And people ostracized this guy. They were like, don't talk to him, he's nuts. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And people shunned him. Now, can you imagine how lonely of a world that is? And now look at what it is today. They're everywhere. And that is one of the things that leaders will have to go through. They will have that lonely experience because people will not be able to have that foresight like they do. At least not all the time. Some don't understand it. And this is why leaders have to be patient. They have to be very, very patient with people. Not only with people, but they have to be patient with the plan. How many times have you seen people try to rush? Oh, sorry, we'll do this. Oh, sorry, we get that. All right, just put it out there. Go. And then they put it out there, and then it doesn't work. You're like, oh my gosh, that was just a horrible experience. Why would we do that? It shouldn't have gone like that way. And what happens is a lot of times you have to slow down, take a step back. That was one of the things that I definitely learned when I was in my doctoral program. My chair kept telling me, she calls all of us grasshopper. So she calls and she goes, grasshopper, slow down. You're moving too quick. Slow down. I can't tell you how many times I missed a mark, or I didn't quote something right, or I didn't explain myself correctly because I was just rushing through it trying to get it done. And the professor would take me and say, no, take a step back. Look at it. Be patient. And leaders understand that. Being patient is huge. And you'll understand that when a person is patient, they'll limit the amount of mistakes that they'll make when they're ready to implement the plan. This one is one of my favorites. It's actually in the movie. And its results reflect leadership. And what results reflect leadership means, if the plan doesn't go right, it's your fault. Oh, well, they didn't get up and they weren't here on time. It's your fault. You should have motivated them. And there's one country that is really huge on leadership. It's Japanese. Japanese culture, at least that I know about. Really huge on leadership. And actually here in the U.S., just to show you how much of I guess it's a reflection on how much of lack of leadership we understand, is that usually in the U.S., when somebody gets fired, it's usually the lower level employees. In Japan, that's not true. Japan is the exact opposite. It's the managers that get fired. It's the general managers, the CEOs. They fire from the top down because they're huge on leadership. Why are production rates going down? Oh, well, the employees are lazy and they don't. No, it's not. You should have let them. It's your fault. You're the leader. So I like this quote. Results reflect leadership. Love this quote too. A true leader is one who is humble enough to admit their mistakes. Have to be able to go on and say, I was wrong, but we'll get it right. I know some of you probably saw Obama as he's been president. I remember seeing him go on national television saying, okay, all right, it didn't go well, it's wrong, I'll take that one. All right, but we'll fix it. let's fix it. That's a